It's a scene that's become all too familiar for a town of southwestern Iceland, a dangerous volcanic eruption that's been going on and off since late 2023. The town of Grindavik has been repeatedly threatened and repeatedly evacuated since then. There aren't many folks left in the fishing community, but nearby, the Blue Lagoon geothermal spa has been cleared out as well. That's a major tourist attraction for Iceland, and it's temporarily closed until the current eruption settles down. Earthquakes have been felt in the area. Considerable movement has been detected in the river of magma that flows beneath Grindavik. The good news is that authorities have been able to accurately predict these eruptions based on the seismic activity that comes right before them. The bad news is that there's no stability for the few people there who've insisted on staying, despite the fact that most of the buildings have been declared uninhabitable. The volcano nearby had been dormant for 800 years before waking up a year and a half ago. Iceland is positioned over a volcanic hotspot in the Atlantic Ocean. That's what's responsible for the fire in the land of fire and ice. This is The World from A to Z, your nonpartisan source for international news and features, and I'm Carl Azuz. Yesterday, in the Rose Garden of the White House, U.S. President Donald Trump announced new tariffs, or taxes, on virtually everything imported into the country. Those tariffs will be at least 10%, meaning that if a company makes t-shirts in Asia, for instance, and then sells them in America, it would pay an additional 10% tax to do this, with the money going to the federal government. But those tariffs will be higher for dozens of countries on what the Trump administration calls the worst offenders list. These are nations that currently charge their own higher tariffs on goods they import from the United States. Now, the U.S. will charge additional taxes on their goods, though the government says they won't be as high as what they're charging America. All of this is in addition to previous tariffs announced by the new administration. Why is it doing this? President Trump says it'll make international trade more fair to America. It's also meant to encourage companies to do more manufacturing in the U.S. where they wouldn't have to pay import taxes. And the White House says the new tariffs will raise $6 trillion in revenue for the federal government over the next 10 years. President Trump called the day of his announcement Liberation Day for America. His Democratic critics in Congress called it Recession Day. They say it's going to hurt the American economy. When companies that import goods have to pay more to do it, analysts say they typically increase their prices, which hurts buyers. If this happens on too many goods, at a time when Americans' budgets are already stretched thin from the high price rises of the past 4 years, experts say there could be a slowdown of U.S. economic growth, or possibly a recession when the economy shrinks. There's also a risk that raising U.S. tariffs could trigger a trade war when other countries do the same thing on American goods, making it harder to sell U.S. products in other places. What no one knows at this point is what will actually happen in the days and years ahead.
April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again.
At the end of the day, what we will see are costs go up for everyday consumers, energy costs, smartphones, cars. We will experience this, and largely on the backs of working class people who are just trying to get by.
The actual benefits and drawbacks and how much there are of both are in the hands of time.
Word of knowledge. Which of these landmarks would you find in Rome, Italy? Pompeii, Rialto Bridge, Trevi Fountain, Statue of David. All of these locations are in Italy, but the only one you'll find in the city of Rome is the 18th century Trevi Fountain.
Walk by some public fountains and you'll sometimes see a small fortune collecting at the bottom, tossed in by passers-by. At some point, the fountains have to be cleaned and the coins cashed out. For smaller fountains, custodians often collect the money and use it towards the fountain's upkeep. But at more popular sites like Rome's Trevi Fountain, which captures more than 1 million coins in an average year, that money goes toward a lot more than just keeping a tidy fountain. Trevi's coin-tossing tradition is believed to originate in Roman, British, and Celtic mythology. Legend has it that if you turn your back and toss a coin over your right shoulder into the Trevi fountain, you'll have good fortune and someday return to Rome. Millions of tourists pour into that Italian city and carry on the tradition. Rome's energy and water supplier is in charge of cleaning the iconic Trevi pool. Twice a week, early in the morning, ACEA operators pull out their vacuum pumps to clear debris.
We found bracelets, necklaces, and dentures. We found a little bit of everything inside the fountain.
But mostly, they find coins, which are then tossed into cloth bags. Might seem like a cut and dry operation, but it's actually a high-security job. Local police tape off the area and stand by every step of the process, from collecting, to weighing, to handing the money off when coins are given to a local Catholic charity. A volunteer from that organization takes the haul to a secret location, where coins are cleaned, divided by national currency, and then converted to euros. From there, the fountain funds flood back into the community, helping with things like poverty assistance, food banks, community day centers, and an open-to-all medical center.
I love knowing that when you flip a coin, you can help people in need.
Many other high-traffic fountains use their sunken treasure for charitable work too. It just takes a little research to know where your coins will end up.
On this date in world history. On April 3rd, 1860, mail deliveries began on the Pony Express. Horses and riders made the 1,800-mile trip from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California. It took 10 days, a record speed at that time. The Pony Express lasted 18 months before being replaced by the telegraph. This was the date in 1948 when U.S. President Harry Truman signed the Marshall Plan. Named for Secretary of State George Marshall, it gave certain European countries more than $13 billion, the equivalent of over $175 billion today, to help them recover from World War II and resist the spread of communism. How successful the program was continues to be debated. And the first time a cell phone call was made in public occurred on April 3rd, 1973. Motorola engineer Martin Cooper used a brick-sized phone on a Manhattan sidewalk to call one of his rivals at Bell Labs to gloat about the breakthrough. Some might call that trolling. Today we clicked a link so we could be linked into the links. That's the mascot of Lincoln High School. Gotta recognize Mrs. Rosenau's class watching from Lincoln in the Cornhusker state of Nebraska. The Mountain State is where we're going next, where we have viewers in the city of Morgantown talking about Miss Stepanik's or Stepanik's class at University High School in West Virginia. Finally, from Cerritos, California, we welcome Mr. Shin's class. Great to see the Trojans of Tetzlaff Accelerated Learning Academy Middle School.
Watch students get schooled by a principal's epic April Fool's prank. 11th grade students at Australia's Wollongong Performing Arts High School were gathered for an announcement from their principal.
This news will affect you all directly.
But little did they know, it was gonna be a doozy.
A mandatory Year 13 has been added to your educational pathway. And therefore, you will no longer be graduating in 2026.
News of an extra year of high school left the students understandably shocked and stunned, and Principal Kylie Woods deftly left them hanging just long enough before setting the record straight.
One other vital piece of information. Wollongong High School of the Performing Arts this year was selected to be a part of the 2025 April Fool's Day joke. That you are most certainly graduating in 2026.
Even junior critics might say it's not classy, diplomatic, or freshman if you'd seen your post-graduation plans fail to make the grade. But if pomp and circumstances allow for a little class clowning around with a principal practical joke, who's to criticize it as sophomoric? I'm Carl Azuz, on a roll with school puns, and we'll be back on the bus tomorrow.